What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Part-Time Watchers podcast with Keith and Lorcan, talking everything in the world of pop culture, movie news, TV shows, comic books, video games, you name it, and we might talk about it part-time. And give it a listen. Listen to that. Doesn't that just sound so much better than the last couple of weeks?
Oh, I think I cut myself in that sharp audio quality. Just like, ooh, it's so nice, so crystal clear.
We finally got ourselves out of the old, whatever we use, Zoom and Skype, whatever, and figured out that there's actually online recording software you can use for podcasts.
Who would have known?
People have been using for years, yeah.
I'm loving it. Like, this is super crystal clear. I can see my waveforms. I can see if I'm making any unnecessary noise, which I don't think I am at the minute, which is good. So crystal clear. Yeah. Happy out with this.
Yeah, and this is definitely not a sponsored video because we're not paying for that at all.
We're also not mentioning the name.
Yeah, we haven't mentioned it yet. It's called Zencastr, and it's really great. And if they want to sponsor us, they can. But
I'd like that. I'm sure.
I'd like that. Yeah,
I'm sure they have like 50 million podcasts that have just started already at this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, in the last 2 months, everyone's like, "Oh my god, I'm bored. Let's start a podcast." Well, we started it when we were bored a year ago, at least. So
yeah,
we got out there, and we got there before it was currently cool. We got there when it was already not cool a year ago.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Anyway, back to this show, and we're mainly covering all the news stuff this week, but there has been a lot of good news, especially in movie news, and a lot of really interesting stuff came up.
Yeah, I had a feeling we were going to kind of hit some sort of like, I don't know, like stalemate, because like last week there was so much good news and like so much news in general that there hadn't been in weeks. And I'm like, this is going to be it. It's going to be another slow like 4 weeks of news. So I'm happy out that we have like so much to talk about, so much great stuff to talk about.
Exactly, a lot of really exciting stuff. So to kick it off, we'll jump into some Star Wars news, because Star Wars was really on a roll this week. And the big news that came out at the very beginning of the week, basically on Monday morning, was that Taika Waititi, director of What We Do in the Shadows, Hunt for the Wilder People, Thor Ragnarok, amazing director, awesome, funny, hilarious guy, is directing a Star Wars film. He's also co-writing it with a writer from 1917. She wasn't born in 1917. She wrote the movie 1917.
Be awkward.
Kristen, that'll be. She's very old. Kristen Wilson Cairns, and so she was obviously nominated. She was nominated for writing with Oscar nominated for writing 1917, and Taika obviously won for was it writing?
Jojo Rabbit.
Jojo Rabbit,
yeah, best original screenplay.
For screenplay, yeah. So both Oscar nominated writers. Taika's obviously just incredible, Oscar winner, and has just like become one of the most popular people in genre creation at the minute, in genre film.
He's one of the most like visually stunning directors working now at the minute, and his take on comedy is so refreshing. It's insane. Like he's just an amazing director. So I'm super excited to see what he can do with a Star Wars property. Like my only fear here would be that he doesn't have the creative license to do what he normally does, but he's played with Disney in the past now with Thor Ragnarok, and that was very much his own vision for at least 3/4 of that movie. So I'd be pretty happy seeing him moving forward with this. I can't imagine Kathleen Kennedy is going to railroad him, so fingers crossed. It should work out fine.
Yeah, I mean, looking at like what's happened with Star Wars over the last couple of years, obviously we know about a lot of like Phil Lord and Chris Miller. Obviously, were doing Solo, and then they got pushed off it reportedly because it was like too comedy focused, or it just wasn't suiting their vision. And Kathleen Kennedy has basically cut like 50% of directors on Star Wars movies over the last couple of years. But like, honestly, I think over the last, whatever it was, 6 years since they started doing Star Wars movies again, surely now they must have figured out that you got to stopping the creative people from doing what they want to do. Because like you've seen, like Solo was a complete failure, like both critically and financially.
I really didn't hate Solo. Like it's fine. It's a fine movie. It's not that
Solo
bad.
was a complete failure. It's a terrible movie. No one should ever watch it.
It's not that bad.
It's not. It's not that bad. It's just boring.
It's boring.
It's super boring, and it kind of like is a crap origin story for this amazing character.
It's true.
So, yeah. But like with someone like Taika Waititi, he's been in the Disney wheelhouse now for a while. He done Thor Ragnarok, which critically and financially, people loved it. Like fans loved it, critics loved it. It made a boatload of money. It reinvigorated the Thor character.
Yeah.
So if he's now directing a Star Wars movie, surely they're going to be like, okay, just let him do his thing because clearly he knows what he's doing.
He's
People
also
like,
done episodes in Mandalorian as well. Like he done that. Was it the second last episode or last episode?
no, he done the last episode of the first season of Mandalorian. Yeah,
Yeah, which was a great episode and had really fun moments. Like, do you know one with the stormtroopers when they're trying to shoot the can but they can't hit it, and it like plays on the
yeah,
fact that like stormtroopers have no aim as well. And I'm just like, that's incredibly hilarious as well, but very much in the tone of like what Taika does, but also what Star Wars is as well. So it's not too much Taika, not too much Star. Like it's really good. I'm really excited to see what he can do with this. Have you heard
yeah.
what do you call it, the possible script leaks for this? I've heard some
No,
possible story details. Now, Keith, like this is a giant spoiler warning, but apparently it follows a young Gungan, and he's in like the
get
galactic,
out of here! You shut up.
and he's in the
Uh,
galactic kind of like youth, like Hitler Youth type of thing as well, and and he's a ghost best friend who's like Darth Vader, and
of
I think it's
course.
called Jar Jar Rabbit. I found that amazing joke online.
Oh,
No credit to
nice,
myself.
nice. Stealing it, not giving the people the credit for it. That's
I,
exactly what podcasts are all about, isn't it?
but yeah, like yeah, I'm just really excited by this. Like I just yeah, I'm just scared sometimes as well because I know it's the cool thing to rag on Kathleen Kennedy, but like she has fired a lot of directors, and I'd be kind of scared that this won't happen moving forward. But then there's also that idea that Kevin Feige is going to have a bigger part to play potentially in the future. I know it's only one around like a minimal Star Wars thing at the minute, but I reckon he's going to be phased in a little bit more moving forward. And I don't think they're going to have the grounds to fire Taika nearly under any circumstances. So I should be okay, or it should be okay.
Yeah, well, he's definitely not going to get fired. Like, there's no way something like that's going to happen. Obviously, we're kind
Mm,
of kidding around with that, with the fact of that. But I
yeah.
think one of the big things to come, like to think about when you're going with this, is that they have the writer from 1917
Yeah.
co-writing the script with him. So even if you've watched that on Disney Plus, the Mandalorian kind of behind the scenes documentary they're doing.
Mm,
So the first episode is all focused on the directors, and when Taika was talking, he was saying that like as he was just one of the directors on, like he was fit to have his own free range and do what he wanted to do with certain scenes and whatever. But he also had like John Favreau and he had Dave Filoni there to kind of wheel him back in when he
yeah.
started like taking the jokes maybe a bit too far outside the Star Wars kind of universe. Or when he started trying to do things that was a bit too crazy. And even for Taika, he's like, I know that's what I'm like. I'm going to keep trying things. So
Yeah.
it's good to have someone to kind of wheel him back in. So having someone as prestigious as someone who's wrote like 1917, like
Yeah.
this seriously like in-depth drama and like amazing story,
Mhm,
having someone like that sitting beside him in a writer's room
mhm.
is, I think, is going to be great for kind of like, oh, that's very funny, Taika, but what if we just took a little step back into this universe,
Is there
and kind of
word
stop all of us from
on?
getting a bit too carried away.
Yeah, is there word on if this is the first in a trilogy, or if it's a standalone, or like there's no word on any of that yet, is there?
No, they haven't announced anything. They haven't even like what year it's coming out or anything. Just that they're working on a movie and it's going to be one of the ones coming up.
Nice.
I would assume because we've obviously heard that Feige's going to be producing a movie as well.
Yeah.
So maybe the two of them are going to be kind of working on this movie together, and Feige will be producing it, and he'll be
Mm.
obviously writing and directing it because they've worked so well together before. But yeah, nothing else has been announced, when it's set, what it's about, anything like that. But just the fact that someone like Taika is getting into Star Wars, because like when they kind of came back with Star Wars, obviously they kind of went for like good directors, with like Phil Lord and Chris Miller were popular
Yeah.
at the time. Ryan Johnson was popular at the time. So I just really hope, because this is clearly going to be like the quote unquote phase 2 of Star Wars films,
Yeah.
where they kind of start a new thing. So hopefully it goes in a better direction, where they just let the give people a creative freedom to do their thing when they come into movies, and don't be like, no, well, you see, we had an idea that, like, the idea was we didn't have an idea, and you're going outside the idea that we already didn't have, so change it around. And
I
hopefully there's
also I also think as well the bridges have been burned with a lot of people with that kind of trilogy that came out now, that it can almost start from a place of being, well, a lot of people aren't as pumped as they were years ago for a Star Wars franchise or Star Wars movies. So when these
mm,
come out and they're actually quite good, it almost gives them a bit of ground and start from scratch again. So like fingers crossed it works out, but like Taika's a really good person to kind of get in there as well. And he's worked with space stuff before, so it'll just be interesting to see the take that's taken on this. And I would like just a different kind of tonal shift from what we've
mm,
got in Star Wars so far, just even slightly, and it could
yeah,
work. But anyway,
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, great news in that. And then, as we were talking about the Mandalorian, so they have announced, and it's kind of popped up throughout the week, who the directors are for the Mandalorian season 2, and some very outside of the box people popped up. But obviously, one of the things that's exciting with it, so it's going to be about 8 episodes again. So Favreau, along with producing it, is actually going to direct an episode, which I'm so super happy he's actually directing an
Same.
episode. Rick Famuyiwa is going to be back from season 1. Dave Filoni is obviously going to be directing another episode or two this year. But then on top of that, Carl Weathers is going to be directing an episode, who obviously has been in season 1 and is still playing a character that's probably going to show up again. And I've never seen or heard of anything he's directed, so that's interesting. Then you also get Peyton Reed is directing an episode, which was not expecting that at
Yeah,
all.
that came out of
Peyton Reed,
nowhere as well. And again, it's the Disney connection, I think, as well, because Peyton Reed came in and took over Ant-Man. Obviously, when that whole directorial came down as well, so he's obviously on a list of people where they kind of are like, Peyton's pretty solid, and like, listen, he is pretty solid. Like, those Ant-Man movies aren't like amazing or anything along those lines, but they're good watches. So I'd like to see him have a go at this, I suppose, as well. But
yeah,
the other name that stands out to me in this list is Robert Rodriguez,
yeah,
and that could be that, like, that has the potential to be incredible. And I know the Mandalorian are quite good because, as you mentioned before, they have people like Favreau and they have people like Dave Filoni who kind of keep you on the wheels. But there's different kind of tonal or maybe stylized pieces of things that sneak through. Like Taika's episode had the comedy and stuff that's quite similar to it as well. I just wonder
yeah.
what Rodriguez is going to bring to this. Is it going to be machete type action or something like that, or is it going to be like Planet Terror type things? Like, I'm a big fan of Robert Rodriguez, but his movies are a bit weird, and I don't think I ever would have, I don't know, shortlisted him on a name of people to direct The Mandalorian. So that's why
For
it's really
Star Wars, yeah.
exciting. Yeah. So
Exactly, it's so out there, and this is just like another thing where it really highlights that it's all about who you know in Hollywood.
totally.
Because like John Favreau is like, we know he's friends with Robert Rodriguez. Like if you
Mm.
watch the show Chef, they have an episode where he goes to Robert Rodriguez's house, I'm pretty sure, in the episode, and they like
Yeah.
cook stuff together or whatever, and they're like chit chatting, having a great time. So you're like, clearly Favreau is just like, who are my friends that are also good directors? And like maybe Kathleen Kennedy or whatever are also looking at it. When you look at like
Mhm.
Not Brie Larson, what's her name? Brie Larson. Who was it that directed some episodes last year? Oh, she was in Jurassic Park, Jurassic
Oh,
World.
Bryce Dallas
Bryce Dallas
Howard.
Howard,
Yeah,
yes. So when you look at someone like Bryce Dallas Howard directing an episode last year, that's clearly because like her dad's Ron Howard. She has a
it's
foot in the
true.
door with Star Wars. She knows people in the business, like
Hmm.
Kathleen Kennedy or whatever. So it's really interesting to see this. Like, this is the first time you almost see it where it's like publicly on a massive stage. They're like, hey, we know you. Come and do this for us. You know?
Plus, it's
Like, it's kind of
healthy.
friendly.
It's kind of healthy that Star
Absolutely,
Wars
yeah.
isn't going to be this like boys' club as well, where it was only really what do you call it, Lucas and Spielberg, and then obviously in the last one they got in some of those new directors. But there's a wide range of talent here as well. Like, people from
Mm,
Peyton Reed to Carl Weathers, who I'm fairly sure this is his first major directorial anything. Like, I looked at his IMDb before this, and I don't think he's significantly directed really anything
yeah.
outside of the odd kind of one or two episodes of like standard TV shows.
Mm.
But Robert Rodriguez is a great one to put in there. Fukunaga, obviously from last season as well.
Family
Um,
humor.
oh, Fatty Yuma, sorry, not Fukunaga. That would be great if it was Fukunaga.
Mm,
And Dave Filoni as well, again, who's known more for the animation stuff, and
yeah.
his episode last year, I don't think was one that stood out as far as I remember, but like he's kind of prevalent across most of it in terms of writing as well. So
Yeah, yeah.
like it's good that it's kind of being brought out to the wider kind of forefront. So it's good to see names
Mm,
like Peyton Reed and Carl Weathers and Robert Rodriguez included here. So I'm
yeah.
pretty psyched, to be honest with you.
Absolutely. And then when we're looking at The Mandalorian season 2,
Nice.
huge news just dropped on Friday that I don't know if Star Wars have officially announced it, but it's coming from the Hollywood Reporter, I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure. So they
I've
know
seen
their
this
stuff.
everywhere.
But so reportedly, what's his name? The guy that played Jango Fett in episode 2, Tamura Morrison, who also plays Aquaman's dad in the Aquaman film. So he is coming back reportedly to play Boba Fett in season
Nice.
2 of The Mandalorian. So now, reportedly, season 2 of The Mandalorian is going to have Boba Fett, Ahsoka, and the Dark Saber. And
Pretty awesome.
I cannot wait for all of this in live action. Like, if you were to say to me
Yeah.
about a year ago that you're going to have a live action Star Wars show that's going to be kind of moving on from what you've seen already, but kind of like bringing back characters that you know and love, and kind of linking back to like shows you've watched or whatever. And you're like, who do you want to see? My top like 4 or 5 things would have been I want to see some cool lightsabers we've never seen, like the dark saber. I want to see Ahsoka Tano come back. I'd love to see Boba Fett in some capacity, because obviously, like, everyone's wanted to see him in some capacity since in the last couple of years, since Disney brought it back over again. And like, well, those are the main three. The only other thing I was saying was I'd love to see Darth Maul at some point, but he's not showing up in this. We know that.
Yeah.
But I'd love to see something with Maul in it. But like 3 out of 4 ain't bad.
It's true. It's true.
3 out of 4
But
ain't bad.
do you think he's going to come back as Boba as well, or do you think he's going to be a Mandalorian in like Boba Fett type armor? And like, is I yeah, like I've kind of thought about this for Boba for like the longest period of time as well. But like, I think you nearly save him for his own kind of standalone show to figure out how he gets out of the Sarlacc pit as well, and kind of follows
Mm,
that whole trek. But like, I suppose with this one, it'd be nearly cooler if it was a clone, like a clone trooper as well, and he kind of followed in the same. So obviously it's the same actor, same everything as well, because they all look
mm,
the same. But it's not actually Boba Fett; it's someone in Boba Fett armor, and he's hunting down, we'll say, Baby Yoda. It could be for this as well, and then Ahsoka's doing the same, but for probably more moral reasons as well.
mm,
And then you have Mando in the middle as well, who's kind of keeping all this stuff down. Like I like, as much as I'm excited about all this as well, I kind of hope that these are things that are happening in the background, and not every episode it's like Jesse and James from like Team Rocket who show up on two different sides to either help or hinder. It would be cooler
mm.
if you find out that you still have that kind of day-to-day thing that the Mandalorian's doing, but there's the idea that he's being tracked by either Ahsoka or by kind of Boba Fett or someone in Boba Fett armor. Like, I'm actually excited to see what direction to go with this, but I also don't want it to be taken over with like, oh, the Mandalorian was great in the first season. Now let's chuck Boba Fett in, and then it kind of turns into a Boba Fett show. I would like
Yeah,
if it's
yeah,
more hint of that. You know what I mean? The whole way through the show,
yeah.
be interesting.
Well, that's the thing. It'll be interesting to see what way to do it. Like, I do think, like, I trust Favreau and Filoni, because even if you watch like Star Wars Rebels, the animated show, like, they brought Ahsoka in, but she
Hmm.
most definitely didn't come in and take over at all. Like, she came in and she was
No,
a
she was
very
great.
bit part character. So like, that's what I kind of see happening if these characters do come into it, that they'll come in and they'll kind of be a bit part, but they're obviously not going to be
Hmm.
take over the show, and all of a sudden, like, it becomes a different show.
Yeah. I'd love
And
to
you
see
never know what.
I'd love to see if there's more hints towards like Rebels or something like that moving forward.
Yeah,
Like, if
kind
you
of
have,
ties back into it over.
yeah, like Ezra comes out of nowhere again, because
Yeah,
we all know he's in like the Lost regions, and that could be some kind of hint towards maybe Tron coming in at some stage as well. So like,
yeah.
like, and like, I suppose that's maybe what I was expecting more from Filoni from, but like, here's me saying I don't want it to be taken over by everything else as well, but I still would love to see some sort of hint towards like Rebels as well. But yeah, like
That's it. Like,
like
if
I'm
you're
really
taking
looking
in
forward to
Ahsoka,
this.
though,
Yeah,
if you're taking in someone like Ahsoka, she has to talk about after the
it's
Clone
true.
Wars, and like, has to talk about what's happened since the Empire's fall. Like, they have to mention like
Hmm.
Sabine Wren at some point, because clearly she was with Sabine and now
Yeah,
she's not with her now.
and
So it's kind
then
of like, what's
also
happened?
Sabine had the dark saber as well at that time, as far as I remember. So there might be something to do with that too. So like, it'd be interesting to see. Yeah, like, I'm just really interested to see what happens across the board. To be honest with
Mm.
you.
Yeah, no, Sabine didn't have the dark saber, because remember, she left it with
Oh yeah,
Bo
she left.
Katan,
Yeah, I remember. I remember
and
that.
then obviously the Siege of Mandalore, they lost it, whatever. Um, but yeah, it's coming. Like, I really can't wait to see. And one of the actually interesting things, this is getting very deep. So if you're not a Star Wars fan, but the fact that they are like, the guy that's coming back to play Boba Fett, obviously all the clones are based on him, so they all look like him, and we know, because we just seen the end of another show, certain clones survive. No spoilers for that certain show, but it'll be interesting to see. Okay, if I'm going to spoil the Clone Wars, so if you're watching that or if you haven't seen the finale of it, have you watched it yet?
I haven't, no, but like, it's kind of obvious that like, this character is beloved by everyone. So like, Rex obviously
Yeah,
survives.
yeah, yeah. Well, we know Rex survives because he's in. He quote unquote has been, like, they picked someone on the rebel side and be like, hey, look, that's Rex over there in the original movies. But so we know he survives, and he showed up in Rebels as well. So it'll be interesting to see if the guy that's coming back to play Boba is also going to play a version of like an older Rex.
Ooh,
Because he could, like, he's the same, like, they're both clones, they both look the same, they would both age the same, so they both be about the same age
yeah.
that this actor is coming back, and you could just put a little bit of a different scar on his face or whatever, and all of a sudden he becomes Captain Rex. So it'll be interesting to see if they hint at that at all, or if they touch on it at all.
Nice.
But yeah, can't, like, I legitimately now I'm getting, like, I was excited for season 2 of Mandalorian, but now I'm like,
Yeah, same.
this is it's weird in the terms of, like, it's like they're finally, because it's totally because Filoni's involved, but it's like someone is finally making new Star Wars content while appreciating everything else that's going on.
It's 100%
Someone,
Filoni. Like, like
mm,
I think anyone who's been watching any sort of Star Wars content outside of like the mainstream movies in the last little while will know like the impact Filoni has had in terms of storytelling.
mm,
And like he is very much like the Lucas, of these times as
yeah.
well, like with the good version of Lucas, I suppose.
But like,
Just over these times.
can you imagine if when they were creating the new trilogy,
Yeah.
they brought in Filoni as like a producer
Yeah.
or someone to just be there as they're like pitching it all out? Because I can 100% guarantee you, if he was there,
Mhm.
what happened to Luke would not have happened.
I think
Like,
there's airs of snobbery in that people were like, well, why is this kind of story kind of writer as well for the animated stuff coming here to
exactly, yeah.
tell me big Hollywood director what to do? There's that air to it as well where he's just not as respected as some of these people, even though he
Mm,
should have been there. Like he should have been there for some sort of sake, to just to make sure that nothing is like kind of like that some things are sacred and and
yeah.
we've talked about this so much as well, but like what they've done with Luke, certain decisions that they made the whole way through the movie, like if he
Mm,
had been involved, it wouldn't have happened that way. But
yeah.
at least
I'd love
it might look forward now.
I'd love to see like a half-an-hour video of Filoni just saying what he would have done if he'd done the sequel trilogy, because I'd say it's the geekiest thing ever. It'd be great. Anyway, moving on for Star Wars. We've been talking about it for almost the first 20 minutes of the show, but it's just so good. But anyway, Lorcan, do you like G.I. Joe? When you
not
were a child, did you play with G.I. Joes?
not even slightly. No. I
I don't
know.
think we never got G.I. Joe in
No.
Europe. We were more action men kind of
Yeah,
kids.
it was definitely Action Men. And to be honest with you, I don't even remember much about Action Men. They were just army people, weren't they? They were just like men with army uniforms on.
Action Man was basically James Bond for kids,
There you go.
essentially. And he was like, you could just buy different action. Same way you buy like Barbie dolls in like loads of different outfits. You just
Yeah.
buy Action Men in loads of different military costumes and loads of different vehicles and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Paramount have announced that they are developing a GI Joe reboot. So obviously not. We've seen the one with Channing Tatum and with The Rock
Yeah.
and stuff the last couple of years ago. That kind of tanked a little bit.
I didn't
So
watch
they're
really either of those. I think I watched a couple of minutes of both of them. I remember watching the
yeah.
second one and realizing, doesn't Channing Tatum get killed off like in the first 10 minutes of the second movie or something?
Yeah, basically they
That's
kill him off
brutal.
because when he was in the first movie, he wasn't really a big deal at the time.
Okay.
So then when they went to make the second movie, they were okay, we're going to kill him off and we're going to bring in like Bruce Willis and The Rock instead.
Yeah.
But then in between the time, Channing Tatum became this huge actor. So they they were like famous for being like, yeah, we really shouldn't have killed him off because now he's done 21 Jump Street and stuff since, so he'd become way more popular. But so it was a
It's so
terrible choice to
stupid.
kill him off.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then, yeah, I do remember thinking Snake Eyes looks really cool. And that's really about it for the entire thing. But,
Yeah, well,
yeah.
that's what they're doing now because we've a Snake Eyes movie that's coming out this year that has a great cast in it, like really good cast, and it seems like it could actually be a good movie, like a good martial arts type movie.
Mm.
So we have that coming out this year as the solo movie, and then that's reportedly going to tie into this GI Joe movie next year. So it seems like they're not going the whole like universe building, let's do the Avengers, but it's almost like they're kind of like,
Fleshing out the
you know,
bits.
maybe we'll do like a little Snake Eyes movie, and they clearly must be happy with it because they wouldn't be developing this kind of like sequel to it if they weren't happy with it. So they're kind of like, we'll do a little Snake Eyes movie. Maybe next year or the year after, we'll get this G.I. Joe reboot out. So they're working on it. It's meant to be coming out, I think, 2022.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, like I said, neither of us are really big G.I. Joe fans, but if they can make a good movie out of it, like it's a good franchise, it's got the name, it's
Yeah.
got characters that people kind of know.
I feel like this will be very much modern day Fast and Furious type of thing. So it'll be
Yeah,
very similar to it. And I'm hoping it's not. I'm kind of hoping it has something else like a level above it. But I wouldn't hold out my hope for G.I. Joe. Yeah, so like I'll wait to see the trailer of this, and if it looks halfway decent, I might watch it. But yeah, I'm
yeah.
not holding my breath for it.
No, definitely not. But sure, we'll see how it goes.
Nice.
Speaking of slightly ridiculous things, let's talk about the most ridiculous thing. Actually, it was challenged this week for the most ridiculous thing, but it's definitely up there in the top two, and that is that Tom Cruise, the absolute mad and insane man, is actually going to shoot a film in space.
The visionary genius that is Tom Cruise.
Like
I
we've talked about this,
I
like
love
we
this.
said it.
I have all right. So I don't think Tom Cruise is a good person. I really don't. But I respect him in a movie sense. I think there is no more of a dedicated action actor out there than Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise can like didn't he do like a loop de loop or something like that in a in a helicopter, and it's like something like only like 12% of pilots can do that. But Tom Tom Cruise learned how to do it. You know what I mean? Like he broke his leg on set last year or the year beforehand as well, and continued to make the movie. I absolutely like. I respect him for like taking things to the next level. So the fact that he's even considering about doing something in space sounds, yeah, that's something that Tom Cruise would do, and I'm actually really excited to see what type of thing it could be. And I bet you it'll just be like a practical thing. So is it for a movie or is it for an effect? Do you know?
So it's actually for it is like it's probably just a scene in a movie or like a part of a movie. I doubt they're going
Right.
to shoot an entire feature film in space or whatever. But supposedly he's working with NASA and SpaceX, and they're going to try and shoot something up in the International Space Station, maybe outside around it. Who knows what the hell he's going to do? But like when we were talking about the last Mission Impossible, we everyone was talking about like what does he do next? You know, I mean, he's done all this crazy stuff. He's jumped from building to building. He's flipped helicopters. He's like held his breath for 7 hours or something in these movies. Like we know he's a lunatic, so how does he up it? Because I mean, if he ups what he's doing, like he eventually gets to like Fast and Furious type fake shit, which is not what Tom Cruise is going to do. So
No.
it's like, we were like, what's his next stunt going to be? Like he's making more Mission Impossible movies. What's his next stunt in him going to be? And like this is not for a Mission Impossible movie, but we even joked at the time, being like, he's going to go to space. Like he's
Yeah.
going to film a movie in space. Like literally joking that like that's so insane, it's never going to happen. But then you hear this news, and of course he's working with Elon Musk to do it as well because they're both as insane as each other.
They really really are. Like I don't think Elon Musk is a Scientologist, but he's definitely on the same sort of wavelength as that type of energy as well.
I feel
Plus
like he's got his own religion going on in his head.
plus Tom Cruise as well. Like as we forget, Tom Cruise is nearly 60. I think he's like 56 or 57 or
Yeah,
something like that. Like Tom Cruise shouldn't be doing this sort of stuff. Like why won't anyone stop him? But at the same time, I don't want anyone to stop him either. But like, all
yeah. I
right,
want to kind of
Tom
see him keep
Cruise,
going.
fair enough, but like, there's also going to have to be a cameraman up there. Like, imagine just working in like, going to college, studying to be like a cameraman or whatever like that, and then you get listed into a new Tom Cruise movie, and you're sent to space
You know.
to shoot a movie. Like, how crazy is that? Like, fair enough, Tom Cruise is there to act in it, but like, there's a cameraman who's going to be there with an IMAX camera in space filming Tom Cruise. Like, how crazy is that? Oh my god.
You know what we're getting? We're getting an Armageddon situation. Like, what do they do? Do they film? Do they get cameramen to learn how to be astronauts, or do they get
Oh.
astronauts to learn how to be cameramen? That's the big
All
question
right.
now.
Speaking of that, have you seen the Ben Affleck behind the scenes when he's talking about that with Michael Bay, and
Yeah,
he's talking about like Armageddon, where they're just like, it's like I don't understand. It's like why wouldn't they just train astronauts to drill rather than drillers to astronaut or whatever like that? And he's just like, you don't understand, you don't understand, Ben. It's like you're so stupid, and then he was
yeah.
just like,
He
is
said
is
that
it
to Michael
harder
Bay,
to
and Michael Bay
drill?
was just like, "Shut
Yeah.
up, Ben." No,
And then
shut
Bell's
up.
like, it's like, no, they got to be real men. They got to know how to drill. It's like no one. It's like, yeah, the astronauts can't learn how to drill. That type of thing. And he's just pissing his whole laugh. And that's kind of like the thing I feel
Yeah,
where they're just like, hey, do you know, like we can probably shoot all this behind green screen and make it look really realistic. And Tom Cruise is like, no, it
yeah.
needs to be
No,
in
they got to.
space.
I need to be the first man to film a film in space, and that, like, on the one side, like he's
Yeah,
gonna go down in Hollywood history forever as the first person to shoot a film
it's
in
true.
space,
Yeah,
and it's probably not going to be done again for at least another 20 years because he's
easy.
potentially going to die up there or something. Like, who
But
knows?
see, that's it as well. He could die up there as well. And it's like, is
Yeah,
it worth it? And then like, but I feel like because it'll be such world news that he shot a scene in
mm,
space, that as soon as the movie
yeah,
comes out, everyone is going to want to see this. And the movie will be iconic because of that. So it's nearly worth the risk. But like that's a big move already. Like that must be hundreds of millions to
yeah.
send someone to space. So
But you
yeah.
know, like, have you watched like the documentary Free Solo, and where they have that
Yeah.
question? So Free Solo is about the rock climbers, where they have that question where it's like, what, like certain people just don't have fear, and all they have is this innate like want to challenge themselves and put their lives on the line because that's when they feel most like alive. And it's like that's what I'm thinking with Tom Cruise, where he's like, what's the closest I can do to death? So I've done most of them. I think my next thing is to float around in space with a camera on me. It's like, how can I get
Ugh.
close to killing myself on camera so people can watch it? Because he's not doing this for the money or anything.
Oh
Like
no,
he's not
no, he's doing this pure like no, he's
pure ego.
but it's ego, but I think it's also for the love of the thing as well. Like because I know he knows he's respected and he is respected across
Mm,
the board. He's not the same star as he used to be, but like anytime I see Tom Cruise in a movie, I'm like, I'll probably still watch that, even though he's again to reiterate, not a good person, or it doesn't seem like a good person, and there's definitely
Yeah.
darker stuff happening with Tom Cruise that we don't know about yet. But we don't know about it, so we don't want to speculate either. But like he's definitely still respected, and I don't even think it's ego anymore. I think it's just like no one else will have the opportunities that I'm doing now. Maybe The Rock in 20 years time if he continues the same trajectory, but I'm fucking Tom Cruise, and if I say I want to shoot in space, someone will let me shoot in space. So like, why not? Like, and plus,
You
and
know what?
plus,
Actually,
and plus, the Scientologists have probably already told him that, like, oh, it doesn't matter if you die, Tom. Like, we'll, I don't know,
would bring you back.
yeah, Zeno will bring you back and you're grand. And he's like, aha, because he probably just thinks he respawns, like in a video game, and he's just been lucky so far. Like that's probably what they're feeding him there. So
That's it. He's actually died multiple times, but Scientology's figured out a way to bring him back.
yeah, maybe
That's
Scientology is not bullshit.
yeah. Scientology has it all going on behind the scenes, and Tom Cruise has died 7 times already.
Oh god.
Oh, crazy. Now, speaking of crazy things, okay, this is actually our first video. It's going to be on YouTube. Can you believe that?
Nice.
Well, no, technically it's going to be our 8th, but the first 7 is just one episode. We weren't really doing anything there. We didn't know what we were doing. So this is going to be our first official podcast. It's fully on YouTube. So I want you to comment down below, which is the crazier of the 2 news stories this week?
Yeah.
Is it that Tom Cruise went to Elon Musk and said, I'm filming in space, and now they're going to film a film in space? Is it that? Or is it the fact that Nicolas Cage is going to be playing Joe Exotic in a TV show?
Oh my god. Like this sounds incredible, and like it's a great casting as well. I remember when all this happened as well, or when Tiger King came out, and I think Dax Shepard put up a tweet and he said, if I'm not cast as Joe Exotic, it's an absolute crime. And I remember looking at him going like, oh yeah, he could totally play him. And then I do remember people putting together who would play who in terms of a Hollywood thing, and Dax Shepard played Joe Exotic. But now, like, I'm just hearing Nic Cage, and it's like, just in terms of energy, let alone, like, fair enough, the look's similar enough, I suppose, to a degree in some light, but just that crazy energy that both of them have. Like, Nic Cage is just perfect casting for this. And I don't know much about this or when it can be turned around, but I am really ridiculous, like more pumped than I should be for this, just to see what the hell they do. And it's like, is it based on the documentary itself? Is it like
No, so the movie, or sorry, it's going to be a series, and it's going to be done by CBS. So CBS, it's going to be an 8-episode scripted series, but CBS have got the rights to. So it's actually an article that was in like Texas Monthly or something, but the article is called Joe Exotic: A Dark Journey into the World of a Man Gone Wild. So it was probably just like an article that was wrote about Joe Exotic while he was going through this ludicrous story of his life. And basically CBS just picked up the film rights or the TV rights to it. So it's not done by Netflix or anything. So it's going to be completely independent, done by CBS.
Nice.
So it's going to be really interesting. It's probably not going to be ready until late 2021, maybe 2022. But like, this is another one of those things where when people were talking about like, oh, they're going to make a Joe Exotic show, who's your fan casting? Like, jokers and memers were probably like, oh, what if you had Nicolas Cage, because he's just as insane as Joe Exotic? And everyone's like, haha, very funny, never gonna happen. And then it happens, and it's like, that's amazing, because he legit, like you said, he's got the same crazy ass energy as like a Joe Exotic has. So if they just say, hey, Nick, see that guy, do him and just be crazy, and Nick, he'll just go. You don't even need to give the man a script. He'll just go out and lose his mind on camera and start saying weird shit and thinking of himself as this kind of like little god in his own planet. And
and I actually have so much time for Nic Cage. Like I actually really do like Nic Cage across the board. So like I just know, I just get excited when I see a role that I'm like, that is 100% matched to what that character should be. So like, yeah, Nic Cage and that, it'd be interesting to see who to match him with in terms of the rest of the characters. I might actually read that article to see if there's like something different in there than what we saw on the show. But like, it'd just be good. Like, the only thing I worry about with this type of thing is that obviously, as you mentioned, it'll probably be late 2021 by the time it comes out. So like, is it going to be dated at that stage as well, or is the funness going to come back at that stage? Like, the show's so big that there's probably going to be revisits to this, and like, Joe is still in jail, and there's probably going to be more stuff around that in the times to come. So like, I'm sure CBS can, like, I don't know, bring up some sort of like stories around it as it happens, like, mention that we're going to bail out Joe Exotic or something like that as well, just to get the story brewing before before it comes out. Do you know what I mean? So be interesting.
Random lawyer from CBS is going to bail out Joe Exotic purely to build up the hype for a TV show.
Probably, yeah. But
That won't look good
be
when Joe
interesting.
Exotic goes and tries to get someone killed again. Yeah, so cool. So let us know down below, or let us know in like a
Yeah.
maybe we'll put up a story or something, because I'm curious of what people think is the more insane story coming from this week. Um, did you ever play this? Is technically video game slash movie news. Did you
Yeah.
ever play Borderlands?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Borderlands. I played
You
all
did,
of
didn't you?
them. I've played all of them bar Borderlands 3, which was the new one that came out this year or
Yeah.
last year. I've played all of them except that.
So
Yeah,
we've known that there is a movie adaptation in the work. Eli Roth is directing it,
nice.
and according to Variety,
Mhm.
Kate Blanchett is in talks to play Lilith.
Yeah, and that's definitely interesting. So, have you played any Borderlands games before?
No, haven't played any of them.
All right, so basically, the games are just madness. To be honest with you, it's kind of like an arcade shooter type thing, but they have a story in them. In that you're basically a treasure hunter, and you're going to find a vault that has like basically all this untold knowledge and loot and all that sort of thing. And you basically fight all these monsters and kind of deities and that type of thing in the run up to it. And there's like a corporation as well that plays a big part in it. But Lilith is basically this thing called a siren, which is like a super powerful kind of angelic type of a character as well that has like these weird phasing powers, laser powers, all this type of thing. And they have like tattoos on them that can turn into like beams of light that can turn into wings, that type of thing or whatever. She's never always been one of my favorite characters, but she's been kind of like a cult classic, I suppose, as well. She's been in all three games and some of the
Mm,
pre-sequel, I think, as well, as far as I remember. Yeah, actually, she might have been a big part of pre-sequel, but she was one of those characters that you could play with, and she's really good with energy weapons and stuff. But she became a bit of a fan favorite, and they kind of weaned her into the story a little bit more. I never particularly loved the character. Really, I never really played as the character, but like she plays a big part in some of the stories, so it's definitely interesting in terms of Kate. Like it's kind of weird. Like I know you can pull up pictures as well, but like Kate Blanchett, like it could work, I suppose. But like I don't. Yeah, I suppose I'd have to know how this movie is gonna like pan out. So it's Eli Roth, so it's gonna be a bit mad. But I need to know like what the story is, what they're planning on doing, and stuff like that to see if it like would work. Because like for the most part, the character doesn't really talk all that much, really, and
mm,
they're not. It's not like your traditional sort of like Last of Us type stories. It's a first person shooter, so like there's
mm.
different cutscenes. There's definitely a story there, but it's not like a compelling acting thing. So it'd be weird to see how this is brought in. And I suppose once you know the direction, you can figure out if she's a good casting or not. But yeah, like
Yeah.
I think I've been on the fence about this movie for a while because I don't know if it really works as a movie, but we'll see, I suppose.
Yeah, well, I think on the one side, based on the fact that I haven't played the games or haven't really been excited for this movie, I'm now a little bit more interested because like Kate Blanchett's an
Yeah.
double Oscar winning actor, so the fact that she has signed on to be in this movie, like
Mhm.
video game movies we know are notoriously known for being absolute dog crap. So
Yeah.
like the script or the screenplay or something must be great, and like Eli Roth must have had an amazing elevator pitch for her
Mhm.
to get someone like Kate Blanchett to sign on for something like a Borderlands movie, because like even from looking at like the visual standpoint of the game, it's kind of like, oh, how are they going to adapt that to a movie? Like, how is that going to
Exactly.
work?
Yeah.
So the fact that she has signed on to do it, like they must be doing something right. So,
I
and
will
like she's
say,
remarkably talented. So,
yeah, I will say, when Telltale done their Borderlands story, I think it's Tales from the Borderlands, they kind of
mm,
translated what that first person kind of shooter direction could be as a story and a narrative. And it
mm,
was actually really good. It was one of the best stories in a video game I think I've ever seen. It was really, really good. So, like, I
yeah,
suppose if they kind of translate that energy to this, it could work out really well, I suppose.
yeah,
And, like, yeah, like, the world itself is just chaotic. So I'm not sure like if the nuance acting of an Oscar winner is going to like bring too much to it as well. Like it completely depends on what direction they go with it. And if she's fun in it, then it might actually work pretty well. But yeah, like
yeah.
it's kind of a weird one until we actually see what's happening. But it's good to see that they're going with a high caliber, I suppose.
Yep, absolutely. Alrighty, so let's bang on to our TV news. So there's not a whole pile in the TV spectrum, but one thing we did get this week is a full trailer for Space Force. So the Netflix series with Steve Carell, created by Greg Daniels, and the creator of Parks and Rec, The Office. That this man is just remarkably talented for like 30-minute comedy shows.
Yeah.
And the fact they've got this new one coming out with Netflix based on like Space Force, the trailer is great. What did you think of it?
I loved it, and it didn't have the same energy, I don't think, as The Office or Parks and Rec in the same way. Like I thought Steve Carell was going to come in; he was going to be very much the boss in the office, and there's definitely hints of that in it, but it's not like
Mm.
a carbon copy of it as well. It looks really good. The setting looks really good. The cast is really good. I've never actually looked at the cast
The
properly as
cast
well. The cast
is
is
phenomenal.
really good. Like, yeah, I'm really
Mm.
excited to see what the majority of that cast does as well. But the actual story, the setting, everything about it is really interesting. And yeah,
Mm.
it kind of has that, like, it definitely does have that vibe of, I suppose, The Office and the Park mixed together. Because Parks and Rec
Yeah,
had that kind of, political element to it, which this one has in terms of the military, and then
yeah,
also the Office type of vibe to it as well. So like, it's going to be interesting to see how this is translated, because Steve Carell, like, I watch him in anything. Like, he's again one of those people that I see him and I get excited by him because I just like his style of comedy. And the ending scene when he's doing his panic and he's singing, "Is it Aruba, Jamaica," or something like
dancing in
that?
there.
Yeah, and I was like, that is just perfect. So like, I'm really excited to see what actually happens with this. So yeah, it could be interesting.
Yeah,
How about
big time.
yourself?
I can't same as I can't wait. It's at the end of this month, and it kind of looks like a mixture of like Veep and
Oh yeah,
like a
Veep.
Parks and Rec,
Mm.
because it's got like Veep with the whole political angle, but Veep is like notoriously more abusive to characters in that show. Like people are just straight up hating on each other, and there seems to be like a little bit of that in this, but not as much from the trailers anyway. So I'm really, really looking forward to watching. Like this is a show that, like, if it's going to be 10 episodes that are half an hour each or something like that, this I'm going to get through this in a weekend.
Yeah, same. Yeah, like,
Absolutely.
it's going to be right off the back as well. But like, like, there's characters here that I'm just excited to play off each other. Like John Malkovich is in this as well, and I
Yeah.
think I think he's notoriously underrated as like a comedic sort of character as
Mm.
well. But then you
A
had
great
people like
timing.
yeah, and then like Ben Schwartz is in it as well, and I absolutely
Yeah,
love
yeah,
Ben Schwartz as well, especially from Parks and Rec. So it's just
yeah,
a lot of different people that I saw popping up in this, and I'm really just excited to see how they go with it. So
yeah, big time.
that's
Um, Other news in the world of TV and streaming. So reportedly, the She-Hulk series is coming out in Disney Plus, so they have finished writing.
nice.
So all these rumors where people are like, "Oh, Marvel, they're not sure if they're going to have like Mark Ruffalo in the show or not."
Cool.
They know. They just aren't telling us.
Yeah.
The scripts are finished. They know exactly what's going on.
Plus, Mark
But the fact
Ruffalo
that
has
they
been known to leak things in the past. Wasn't it him who like leaked like the first half an hour of the audio of like Endgame because he left his phone on live in his pocket or something like that? I'm sure he'll leak what happens at some stage.
But yeah, just the fact that they've confirmed that like the writer's room is finished, so they have all the scripts written, is really cool for something like She-Hulk, because now we know that like the next thing is going to be casting news we're going to get soon, and if they have it, the show, like if they're finished writing it, like you'd assume that it's going to be aiming for like a late 2021 2022 release. So um like the fact that there was so much meant to come out this year and early next year that's all been pushed, like
It's crazy.
2022 is going to be stacked. There's going to be something every month. Like it's going to be insane.
It's actually going to be
um
hard because this is all the comic book stuff that we talked about and bits of Star Wars as well. But like, there's
yeah.
other movies that'll come out of the woodwork around
Yeah,
that period of
exactly.
time as
Yeah,
well, which is just crazy. It's like, what are we going to do? It's going to be pure
yeah.
saturation.
And speaking of Disney Plus, so there's still a lot of rumors going around that they're currently in the middle of casting their Moon Knight.
Nice.
I feel like they might already have this character cast and just aren't telling us. But the main three that are being thrown around at the minute is Zac Efron, Daniel Radcliffe, and Keanu Reeves. So obviously Keanu is very different age bracket to the other two guys. So we
Yeah.
don't know whether it's all rumors. That we know that Keanu has met with Marvel to talk about potential ways to get him into the MCU. So whether it's through that, whether it's through Ghost Rider or something in the future, we don't know. But which would you like, or who would you like to see? Would you rather see them go with like a younger character like an Efron or a Daniel Radcliffe, or would you prefer to see Keanu in there just
Daniel,
mowing people
it's
down?
not. It's Daniel Radcliffe all the way, all the way,
Really?
all the way. Like,
Have you read much Moon Knight?
no, I haven't. So that's the thing as well.
Yeah,
So
you
I'm
see,
not sure
there
how
you
to
go.
translate. However, like Daniel Radcliffe, in terms of energy, the way we've been talking about recently as well. Like, have you seen Guns Amino or any of like the
I
new
haven't
stuff he's
watched it.
brought?
Guns Akimbo.
Yeah, Guns Akimbo. That's it. Yeah, like that sort of energy and the way like he kind of acts, I suppose, nowadays as well. I feel like I'd love to see him play like a little bit of a lunatic in this type of a movie as well. So I don't know. As soon as I saw the name down there, I'm like, I'd be so interested to see it because I know Keanu can do this, and I'd actually prefer Keanu
Hmm.
in a better role. Do you know what? I'd actually prefer Keanu to play a villain rather than a hero. And I think by
Hmm.
putting him in as a Moon Knight or putting him in as, maybe, well, I suppose Ghost Rider could be done in different ways, but putting him in as one of those characters might potentially be a bit of a waste because I think he'd work really well as a villain, for something,
Yeah.
I suppose. But yeah, like Daniel Radcliffe is the name that just pops out to me. I don't know why. I'm sure you're more in the Keanu train though.
Well, like I just because I've read Moon Knight and I love the
Mm.
take that they have on him, and a lot of like what he's good at is just like John Wick style action and kicking the shit out of guys. So like I would love to see Keanu doing it, but in saying that, like I'd like to see them go a younger route because I don't know how much longer you're going to get out of Keanu doing it.
Yeah.
So like you said, he could play a great villain that kind of keeps coming up in shows and stuff. Because even putting Keanu in something like this, like he's going to be older than the majority of the
Hmm.
characters in the MCU anyway, and maybe you don't want a Moon Knight to like start at that age. You'd rather see him younger, kind of
Yeah.
growing up. But either way, to be honest, if they get Keanu in any role, once they don't put him in as a one and done and
It's
get him
true.
out, you know.
Yeah. 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 He needs to
Um,
be like a
and
bigger
yeah,
role
I
moving forward. Definitely.
yeah. But I don't know if I could see like I know Daniel Radcliffe has done a lot of darker stuff recently and been in like Guns Akimbo and stuff, but I just don't think personally I can see him as Moon Knight, but that's just me.
Fair
And
enough.
Zac Efron is way too much of a nice guy for it, so
Yeah,
he needs
he's
to do something else.
yeah, like Zac Efron. I don't think could suit this as well. But there's just a little bit of unhinged nature I think about Daniel Radcliffe that could work. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see what direction they go.
Yeah, so
Perfect.
let's get into finishing up then. So we have our any random recommendations for the week. So
Yeah.
one of the main things I've been watching, and we kind of have it, we talked about it earlier on, was the Mandalorian behind the scenes documentary that they're doing. Have you watched it on Disney Plus yet?
No, I didn't even know it was there actually as well. So I'm gonna have to check that out because
Okay.
that sounds really
Yeah, so
interesting.
they're releasing episodes weekly, which is a bit of a pain in the arse for streaming services. Just drop them all. Come on. But anyway, so they're dropping them week by week. So this is the second episode came out this week. But it's really cool. The first episode is all focused on the directors, and they kind of went through each one of them and talked about how they got involved in the Mandalorian and their take on it, and blah blah blah. It was kind of cool, but it was a bit like I want to see how the shit show was made, though. You know, rather than just
It's
talking
true.
to the
Yeah.
directors. But then the second episode was more focused on like the legacy of Star Wars a little bit,
Ah.
which again was grand, but like we've seen that in so many Star Wars documentaries before. Like, just I want to see the practicals of how did you make Baby Yoda? How did you make him work? Like they've done so much new stuff with filming, so I'm hoping that comes up in the future episodes. But in the second episode, the most recent one that came out this week, there is a great part of it near the end. And I don't even know what the question was that they asked Filoni, because they have like a director's round table where all the directors are sitting around a table. Then they have another one with like producers and SFX guys and stuff like that. So, but in one of them, it's all the directors, and someone asks Filoni something. And I swear to God, if anyone was in doubt of like, I don't love the prequel movies, but I love the story that goes through them. But if anyone was in doubt of how everything from the prequels to like to Jedi wraps up and how that story kind of comes together, just to listen, Dave Filoni goes on like, honest to God, it's about 5 solid minutes of him just explaining Anakin's entire storyline from start to finish,
Yeah.
and the importance of the importance of Episode One, The Phantom Menace, and the importance of the fact that Qui-Gon was killed, and it ended up being Obi-Wan that managed and that kind of like guided Anakin through life. Whereas if it had been Obi-Wan, then he would have had more of a father figure. He
Yeah.
could have been the one that like brought balance to the force in a different way or whatever. But it's so interesting because it's like as Filoni's talking, most of the shots are like, oh, someone talks for like 10 seconds and it cuts to someone else talking. Someone talks for like 30 seconds and it cuts to someone else. But there's just this continuous clip of Filoni talking to all the directors, and they're all sitting there in silence, just listening and just nodding and being like, they're all just blown away because he understands Star Wars on such a deeper level than anyone else that's at that table.
He lives it. Like
Um,
he's just amazing. So was
yeah,
Filoni as well, most importantly, was he wearing his cowboy hat the whole way through this?
he was wearing his cowboy hat the whole way through. Of course he was. The man never takes it off.
I
He
love
only takes it off to put another hat, an actual ball cap on or something.
it.
But so yeah, the episodes so far, they've been good. Like it's been cool kind of taking a look at the background, but I'm hoping they get a little bit better in terms of like the creation of the show and like who went and pitched it. Like, did Favreau talk to Filoni or did Filoni talk to Favreau? What way did all that happen? That's what I want to hear about.
Oh, nice.
Um,
Be
but at the
interesting.
minute, yeah, that's it. At the minute, they haven't really got into that, so I'm hoping future episodes do. But for if you do go in to watch it, like on the second episode, just you'll appreciate Filoni even more when you just hear him talk about that. It's amazing.
Sweet. All right. Yeah, I suppose I didn't I watched Devs actually. After we chatted about it last week, I went and watched all the episodes of Devs, so I finished it last night.
What do you think?
Um I liked it, I suppose as well. There was some episodes I didn't really love all that much. The reveal I thought was okay. I don't know. I felt I suppose at the first two episodes I had an idea of what it was, and I wasn't too far off, I suppose, the whole way through. And some parts of it were really good. So like spoilers, I suppose, as well for devs moving forward as well. Maybe just skip like a minute ahead. But yeah, so the parts when they were showing like, Jesus on the cross, and it was all that type of things where they were looking back in time. I thought that was super
Mm,
interesting how they were going with it. And then there was just different, like I thought the acting was a little bit off. Bar Nick Offerman, who I thought was
yeah.
actually incredible in it. But the
What
main
was your take?
character, the
The
Lily
main character for
character,
the first like 5 episodes, I was like, this poor girl is a horrifically bad actress.
so actually, for the majority of the entire show, bar the very last two episodes, I think it was, I thought she was
Yeah.
okay. But like the whole way through the show, I was kind of disappointed because the Russian guy I thought was okay, and I thought that story was good. And then when it became apparent that we're going to be following the girlfriend Lily the whole way through it, I was a
Mm,
little bit like, oh no. And then she was just wooden the whole way through it as well. And I suppose
mm.
maybe that was just the style he was going for. But there was
Yeah,
other
I
better
can't tell if that was
characters.
like I can't tell if it's like he like that was her direction was to act like that
Yeah,
because it was even when she was saying some things it was like it was so wooden, but it was like are they going for like a super awkward development type
yeah.
character that like our developer character he's like got no social interaction or like what are they going for with it, or is this just I know like no badness to her or anything because that could well have been
Oh,
what it
it was
was, but
probably the direction. Yeah,
yeah, but like after watching the first 2 episodes, I legitimately Googled to see like, is anybody else talking about like the
yeah.
actress in this? Because like it's just that was the one thing that kept pulling me out of it because I was like, she is not doing a good job here,
Yeah,
or at
see,
least to me it looks like she's just a bad actress, whereas that might not be the case, you know?
no, that was the same for me because I kept on thinking that the story is strong for the most part through this. Like, it's definitely convoluted and
Mm.
it's so Alex Garrett, and it actually hurts. But
Yeah, it's super him.
like there's parts of it as well where the sound comes in, and the sound design is so creepy and eerie,
Super
and
creepy sci-fi.
it's
Yeah.
it's brilliant, but it's just his style over and over again. Like there's parts where it just sounds like someone screaming, and
Mm.
it's that sort of sci-fi horror. Like there's parts where they look
Yeah.
back and they're looking at the witch trials, and there's that one burning alive, and it's just the
Yeah.
sound of it as well is just like wow, that's just horrific.
Yeah.
Like the places he
Not
goes
not
to sometimes is crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not the witch burning in horror, but like the visual style of this
Oh,
is beautiful.
it's
It is
absolutely
so
gorgeous. Yeah.
miraculously looking for a TV show. Like
Mm.
it looks absolutely stunning.
Yeah, there's some really bad CGI in it though in some parts. Like the many worlds of the car crash is actually really bad. Like
Oh yeah,
the
yeah,
cars in it look like PS1 graphics. But then there's other parts.
yeah,
But then there's other parts which is the devs kind of like golden box it floats. That's beautiful, and everything about
yeah.
that kind of setup and set design is absolutely
Mm,
stunning. But yeah, like the story's really good. I kind of like that it's a one and done.
mm,
The ending wasn't even that open ended really because we kind of know exactly what happens or
yeah,
what's
yeah.
happening with it, which I suppose is good as well. But yeah, I suppose I was slightly disappointed because I thought the ending was going to be grander than what it was. But I suppose when you look back
Mm,
on it, it was still pretty out there as well. So it was good.
yeah,
But like in terms of his three things that he's done, like Annihilation and Ex Machina, this is probably the third out of the three. But it's not
yeah,
bad. It's just not amazing. But yeah, it was good still. Did you watch anything
yeah.
else?
What else? Well, I this week this timing actually worked out really well. So this week we've been binging Parks and Rec for the last like week and a half or two
Brilliant.
weeks, and this week lined up with that webisode that they released.
Oh, I didn't
Not it
even
was the
watch
episode,
it.
but
Yeah.
yeah, it was cool. It was interesting watching it because obviously all the characters recorded it on Zoom, and it was as if like it was this because obviously in the last episode of Parks and Rec they show basically what happens to all the characters
Yeah.
in years to come. So this episode was kind of set in this where they would have been in 2020 in that timeline kind of thing. So it was interesting, like the kind of plot points they came up with for why they're all separated and
Mm.
in different rooms and whatever was kind of cool. It was cool seeing all the characters coming back. They had like a lot of like Jeremy Jam shows back up in it and stuff. It's really cool. But one of the things when I was watching it the whole time, I was thinking that the lighting technicians, any lighting technician watching the show was losing their mind because you can guarantee that like maybe they sent each one of them like a camera and a light or something,
Yeah.
or maybe they just found like a light around their house or whatever, but every one of them have a really harsh light coming down on their face. So they, if you just watch it, like they all, at least not all of them, but at least two or three of them look visually disheveled. Like they look as if, because even when it started, I was like, are they all, like myself and my girlfriend watching, we were like, are they all meant to be sick? Like, are they all meant to have coronavirus at the minute, or
Oh, that's
why?
not good.
Like three of them look like they're sweating. Like it's like the Leslie Knope and the Ben, her husband, like they're both in different places or whatever. But both of them, I'm looking at them and I'm like, okay, so surely in a couple of minutes they're going to say, oh yeah, we're both sick, which is why we look like this. But it's just never happened. It's just,
They've
as it
just
was
aged
going on,
badly.
yeah, exactly. I kept getting so distracted because I was like, oh god, they just have not lit themselves well at all here. And obviously they're act like they're not gonna know how to like light their face for camera or whatever. But it's just
Yeah.
I found it so interesting at the beginning because it was kind of that thing where it's like, have they all aged a lot, or is it just the bad lighting, bad camera, whatever?
And did they
But it was
bring
really
everyone
interesting.
back for it? Like, did they bring back Chris Pratt as well as like
Brought
Nick Offerman
everyone back. Yeah, the
and
whole lot
Aziz
of them, and
Ansari and stuff?
it was
Amazing.
for like a little short half an hour thing that was all done online. Like it was really cute. It was really funny. Because I just watched the season. Like it
Nice.
linked in very well with it. To be fair, and they done the best they could with what it has. It was still funny. Still got a laugh out of it, and with true Parks and Rec style, it was very warm and heartfelt. Like
Isn't
it
it
was great.
implied as well that Leslie Knope is the president in like the last episode,
Yeah,
or she's running for presidency or something like that?
It's either her or Ben, one or the other are
Yeah.
president. Yeah, but that like obviously that's that. I think that's like 2030 or something they
Yeah.
have in the timeline. So
Oh, that's cool.
but it's really good, yeah. And they sing the Bye Bye Little Sebastian song, which
That's
every time
great.
they sing that song, I'm like, oh, it's such a heartfelt show. I love it.
I didn't watch it either as well, but I saw what do you call it? The guys from Community as well done their podcast. I saw what's his name, Joe McHale and Ken.
Yeah, Ken
Oh, what's his name?
Watanabe.
Is it Ken Watanabe? Is that his name?
Oh no, that's the guy from Inception.
Ken.
I can't remember.
Yeah, I can't remember his name either as well. But the two of them are, what do you call it, doing a podcast as well. I think called the what was it, The Darkest Timeline or something like that, which is an in joke to Community.
Yeah.
But they done a podcast where they brought everyone back. But again, I don't think they were playing their characters, but they had everyone there, bar Chevy Chase, because obviously he had the big falling out as well. But they brought everyone back, including Donald Glover. But apparently, when they were doing the episode as well, they were mentioning, "Oh, I'll put that in the group chat," and they're all like, "Oh yeah, that's cool." And then Donald Glover's like, "Wait, there's a group chat," because obviously he left the show a bit earlier, and he's kind of gone on to do like bigger highbrow things, with like the Childish Gambino stuff, and obviously Atlanta and that type of thing, where he's kind of gone to a new artistic level. So I think everyone was just like, "Oh, Donald, we thought you'd be busy," because he obviously didn't keep in touch with everyone, and he's like, "Oh, I didn't know there was a group or whatever like that." But they were saying how kind of fun and awkward it was as well. But there's the rumors as well that Netflix are going to really push to try and do a movie, even if it is just like a longer version of the show. Exactly. So the plan is to do something, I think, and they're going to do it around Stuart's death, which is Chevy Chase, so they don't have to bring him back. So he dies, nice. And it's basically all about his funeral, and he's left a will for everyone, apparently, is the idea for it. So it's brought back as a one-off, and like they could do things with fitting them around schedules where you can get Donald Glover back in for like a small portion of it as well. So I'd be very interested to see what happens there. But yeah, and I haven't really. I suppose I finished watching Sex Education. I eventually got around to it, so I binge watched both seasons of that. It's so good. It's ridiculously good, actually.
So good.
And it's so smart. Like the comedy and the way it's written is just perfect as well. And I suppose it kind of reminds me, and it's not a direct parallel to it as well, but it reminds me of Skins for a new generation. But like it does, like, and it's not because like it's definitely like it's sexually charged and there's drugs and there's all that element to it as well. But I think it's just progressive in the way that I suppose the different generations had. So as millennials, we had Skins, I suppose, which was progressive for the time, where it talked about gay characters and there was drugs and there was sex and kind of all that type of thing. Whereas it brings it to another level with something like Sex Education, where the conversation's a lot more open in terms of like gender fluidity, stuff like being asexual, that type of thing, and it's all tackled and normalized really well. And like I like the show deserves massive credit, like, and it's ridiculously well written, and like every single person in that show is cast so perfectly. So like I watched all of it and then kind of wondered why I didn't watch all of it to begin with as well, because it's always been on my list and I just eventually got around to watching it. But I'm really looking forward for a third season of that, which will probably come now in 2021, I think. There's not another one.
Depending on how shooting goes.
Oh, that's true as well. But other than that was really it.
But so I'd say that's pretty much all. I don't have anything else. So good show. First one on YouTube. So if you've made it this far on the YouTube video, please do hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit the little bell beside it. And then every weekend you will find out that we have a new video up on Sundays. And then eventually, in the future, we are hoping to do some of our own kind of original video content. So we'll be getting around to that. So hit the subscribe button now, and then when that comes out, you'll already be subscribed.
Yeah.
Great content.
There's no prize for the first 100 people, but at least you'll know. At least you'll be that guy.
You'll know you are one of the first 100. Yeah, exactly.
So when we're shooting a movie with Tom Cruise in space, you're gonna be like, I knew those guys when they were under 100.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, get in on the ground floor.
All right.
But yeah, and if you're just listening to the podcast, subscribe to the channel. Please plop in a few reviews, share it to friends. All that stuff really, really helps out the channel.
Perfect. And stay indoors and wash your hands.
Exactly. Stay indoors and wash your hands. If you do go outside, stay away from people.
Nice.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right. See you. Bye, Jimmy. Bye.